So last week, which was Tuesday's episode, we were a little braggadocious.
Yeah.
About the being an essential and how we're better than everybody who's not an essential. And now that's kind of backfiring.
Well, not only that, but before we get into that, I'm feeling the essential part, wore down, man.
Ward the fuck down. Well, today's news, and by the time this episode airs, maybe the whole problem will be rectified.
Wouldn't that be nice?
But as it stands now, they passed a bill where if you're a non-essential employee and you're stuck at home, not working, you get your unemployment. Great.
Yeah, good.
You get your $1,200 stimulus. Awesome.
Yeah, good.
And you get $600 extra a week. Okay, again, pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Except if you're an essential employee and now the people staying at home is a very good chance they're making more money than you are while working in the pandemic. So I thought of 3 scenarios that could rectify the situation. 1, we get, they should make it mandatory that all employers give double time.
Yes.
And 2, hazard pay.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, just also give the people who are working $600.
Yeah.
If you just gave them $600, all right. That evens out. I'm cool.
Yeah, if you're just passing out money at this point, what's the...
I mean, I don't know if they take taxes out of the $600, but that's, I think, if it's just the $600, if you just get $600, that's a little more than I make a week. So it's man. So imagine if you make $15 an hour or less, then you're making way less than somebody, because if they get the unemployment too, they're making double your paycheck.
Yeah.
That's kind of shitty if you're what's keeping people working then?
And then the only way that the people that are working can kind of keep up with that is because with there being so few people is that they have to pull longer hours.
Yeah.
Which just means that they're out more, which is just giving them a higher rate of,
catching it.
Yeah, of getting sick.
Higher risk. It's this fucked up situation, and the government's really half-assing it. But this is obviously, because I'm sure some people around the world who listen to us are like, what the fuck are they talking about? This is the U.S.
Yeah.
Because I believe Canada, they get $2,000 a month, and I think they get $8,000 initial thing too for unemployment or something. And then a lot of countries, they're kind of making you're forgiven for not paying rent or your bills, that's all covered. You're good. Here, it's kind of you kind of depending on your landlord if you rent. Yeah. If they're if you're out of work and you live in New York or something, and you're not allowed out, you can't work. Some landlords, I heard one guy in Brooklyn who has 200 tenants. He just said, "Hey, nobody has to pay right now." Yeah. That's cool.
Because you got to look at their point, because I heard somebody else talk about that. It's if you evict people, you're not gonna have anybody there for a while, anyways.
And also, where would they go?
Yeah,
you're not allowed out. Where are they gonna go? And I think they're supposed to be doing a mortgage forgiveness, so that the excuse that the landlords had to pay mortgages would. Yeah. That's not going to be a thing.
I'm just worried about all the small businesses.
Most of them are going to go under,
and
dude.
even medium businesses. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some decent sized chains restaurants or convenience stores and
going
stuff
out of business for sure.
Well, I mean that's that's the reason why GameStop is putting up such a fight. Is because they were
barely hanging on anyway.
To begin with.
Look at Barnes & Noble. They were barely hanging on, and now they might be going out. They closed 400 stores. If you... See, here's the problem, too. If we close, these stores and stuff for now, because we have to, even when things reopen and the small businesses that survive, maybe the government bails some of them out or do, tax breaks, different things, are we going to have to, do people have to pay the money back that they're getting from the stimulus?
I mean...
The government doesn't just give free money. We know that. Are they going to fucking up taxes ridiculous and the cost of living is really going to go through the roof? There's just too many questions we can't bring up for this episode because, this is just the intro here. I just wanted to address it. It's just God damn it.
Well, I mean, and that also, if, to kind of bring it, to actually tie it in, a lot of that stuff affects... artists,
Well, if you're an independent artist, that's how you make your living, going to Comic Cons and different conventions. If you're a writer and you're selling your books and stuff, well, if you can't go to these events and sell your stuff, now you're out of a job. And how do you get unemployment? It's difficult.
Well, that's like the other day, because one of the big cons, or not big cons, one of our local cons that we've been really loving to go to the past couple of years, like canceled this year, just straight up canceled.
Didn't even postpone it.
So like,
and this was going to be their biggest one yet. They moved the venue to the huge building.
Yeah. So, you know, I've been, and like, I got a good amount of money, like, just con money stashed away and stuff. And it's like, I'm not going to be able to spend it. So, I saw that this guy that I follow on Instagram, this artist, he was having, like, a live stream still. Like, he's just streaming, and he would put the things out, and you'd just be like, claimed Wolverine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, you DM all the information and do that stuff. I bought 2 things because I'm like,
you want to support them, and you want...
and like, I'm not going to be going to any cons or anything soon to get any,
Yeah, so you have the extra money, and we're both working, so...
Yeah, so, like, if I can help a little bit that way, you know, I want to.
Well, I do notice that the creatives out there have really stepped up with how they're doing things, especially because they can't leave their house. Like you said, he was doing that thing on a lot of Instagram stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of famous DJs, they're doing Instagram beat battles, and that's how they're promoting their work, by having like their most famous songs, and they put them up against each other. A lot of musicians are doing live videos and like mini concerts or live concerts.
And I'm sure that's like on Facebook too. I've also been seeing like comic stores and smaller comic companies also doing like auctions and different like, you know, claim bids and things.
If you're in the
like
comic
that.
industry, this is a great time to get into, like, if you haven't already started making your comics digital.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. A lot of people are not buying comics. They can't get their comics.
Well, they're not even shipping them anywhere.
Yeah, like the only way you can get them is on Amazon, and that's kind of iffy right now.
But I mean, like, even like there's no new comics.
Nothing.
The distributor, Diamond, they shut down. So
Shit.
So at least, like, from what I've been hearing people talk, is like 6 weeks maybe at the least until we get some new comics.
Well, that's the thing, though. If the comic stores are going to be closed for months, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big shitstorm. I'm not digging it. This would be a bad time to try to sell a book, I would think. Digital book might be all right.
Yeah.
But at the same, it's hard to say because people are bored, so they want to read. They want to, read comics and get art and stuff. But also, if a lot of people are out of work and they're struggling to pay their bills.
Yeah, it's hard for people to pay for.
Even if they are getting like this crazy $600 a week plus their unemployment and stuff, and they actually have extra money, or even are making, a lot of people are making more money than when they were working, which again, the incentive, why do you want to work? But even though, it's the hoarder mentality right now. It's like, oh shit, I don't know when this is going to dry up.
Which is like a reasonable response to have, like,
Right?
A pinching penny mindset.
It's the Great Depression era, mindset is, I'm putting money on my mattress, under my mattress. I'm saving as much as I can. It's rough, but as of now, that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah.
Like, they're saying it's going to be a Great Depression again, which that sucks. I mean, I'm grateful I'm working because at least the business I am and the business you are, that's going to be around it's not really going away. But if you want to be a creative, it's a tough time to get into because a lot of people view art and literature and things like even movies and music, they just kind of think of it not as necessities. Yeah. That's entertainment, so that's not the first thing people go to in tough times. Booze, though, Spencer. And now weed. The marijuana industry is booming.
Oh, yeah, because they fall underneath, like, the pharmacy, medical, like, so they're still allowed to stay open.
Pennsylvania really shit the bed with not having recreational now because our state would be doing great.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look at Michigan. They fucking are just, like, the highest, I think even more than Denver and California, they're the highest state for recreational buying right now because everybody's just staying in. It's still cold.
Yeah.
They're just like, fuck this. I'm going to smoke up and smoke some doobs.
Eat some chips and take a nap.
That's how you get people to stay inside. Hey there, friends. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Tallahassee Tallywhacker Church.
We didn't use that one before?
Tallahassee Tallywhacker?
Oh, man.
I don't think so. If we did, it sounds like a good one. Well, what else could you be?
I don't know, man. You're the one. You're the creative one that comes up with all the names.
Spencer, the Boise Ball Buster Church.
That
right
one,
off the head.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. I stopped writing these down, by the way. I wait literally until I find it's better to wait until the magic hits me. When people have the muse for writing. Mine's for coming up with dumbass names for you right on air.
Well, that especially works because anybody who knows me at all knows that I can be quite a ball buster too.
You are the buster of balls, sir. Today, kind of a DBS episode, I suppose. We were going to do some brainstorming, but hoity-toity Spencer here said he already had an idea for his story.
Hey, look, I don't want to listen about it to you, man. You just told me the other day you got done, writing 3 stories and, editing 2 of my stories, so...
I have been productive. I was actually writing right before you got here, too. I have been on a spree, folks. I have a story that I think will be more than adequate enough to get published in an action-adventure magazine. I've looked at a couple already. I just have to finish. I'm just at the end.
Okay.
And then I have to edit and flesh it out, but I think it's pretty damn good because when I go back and read some of the stuff, because the way I write, I fucking take large periods sometimes between scenes, before I get back to it. So when I go back to the beginning scenes, I forgot all about what happened. And it's because mine's, I wanted to not emulate Robert E. Howard's writing style, but just his, an homage to the Conan stories we read.
The way he describes things. And
yeah, I wanted to do that a little, but a little less adjective, adverb heavy, a lot less racist.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, my warrior character is of African descent. Which, in that world, I don't think there's in Africa, but something along those lines. No, I'm not going to have any dumb bimbos either. If I do end up, because I want to stretch this into more of the Conan stories, have multiple adventures for this character. And I'm thinking I'm going to incorporate some strong female characters in the story. I want some Xena-type female warriors.
Like Red Sonja, Xena, that kind of stuff.
And I would like them to be a little, not necessarily more feminine, because I don't think that really has any bearing on, a good depiction of women. But I don't want it to be your typical female character who has to be kick-ass or is super smart. Because I'm tired of those tropes where you have the female character is either what's her name from Arrow? Smoke? Felicity Smoke?
Yeah, Felicity, yeah.
She's super smart.
Yeah.
And then you have the other characters I think of Michelle Rodriguez in fucking Fast and Furious or Girl Fight is super badass. It's all you don't always have to be a Sarah Connor character who's just kicking ass and taking names or super smart or super feminine dainty. I just want a real person who can hold her own. I think that'll be the way to go. Of course, it's a Conan type of war, so she's gonna be cleaving some heads as well. Just not cleaving them straight in two the super warriors of the story. I'm sure I'll eventually incorporate some super crazy steroid using women too.
Yeah.
Gotta have that. But they'll probably be the bad guys. I want some bad guy females too.
Yep.
Not the sorceresses and stuff. I want some gladiator ladies. I'm thinking of a story. Actually just thought of this now. So, because this is, brainstorming episode. Let's come up with this idea. I had a list here, but fuck that list right now. I'm thinking Conan universe, not the Conan universe, Conan-like universe, Venture universe, ancient types of shit. I'm thinking my character stumbles upon, because I haven't read this in the Conan stories, it might be in one of the newer ones, Amazonian type tribe. So just a bunch of tough ladies who want some of that hot snoo, and they're gonna break your fucking dick off. That could be fun. How does the character get to that island though?
I don't know. It was on a ship. It wrecks and he washes up.
Simple as that.
Because even to the kind of again, not trying to copy Conan, but a lot of those beginning of those stories were just kind of very
him stumbling up somewhere from a shipwreck, or he's on the loose, or
very coincidental, just a fluke kind of thing happened.
Well, my character, because I also want to go the Conan route, where each story he's a different kind of I don't necessarily want to do you know what? I like the way the Conan thief stories work because he still had honor. He was a thief, but he was an honorable thief. I like that. So I think in my stories, I'm going to kind of go that route, have my character, one story be a pirate, one story be a thief, one story be a refugee or whatever Conan was, escape from the law. The first story, he's just a warrior.
You know what I wanted to ask you about this series, and I don't know if you put any thought into it, or if you think you might not want to because of just being maybe overplayed at this time, but are there dragons?
Ooh, I'm definitely gonna.
I mean, obviously not like in this first story, but in like, so especially since you said you want to branch out and tell more stories.
Well, I was thinking about incorporating some kind of mythical beast. I don't know necessarily dragons. Now the Conan stories, because Robert E. Howard was friends with H.P. Lovecraft, he had the old ones in his stories, which was a really cool twist. I don't want to copy that and have aliens, as cool as that is. So dragons and things like similar to dragons, or I want to go, what do they call that? Cryptozoology or something? Like the mythical, like your Loch Ness Monsters, Bigfoots, Mothmans, things like that. I want to have like some creatures like that. So I'm going to look into, actually I have a collection of Native American not short stories, Native American folklore. And I have a collection of Greek folklore. I'm thinking about combining some.
Ooh, that could be interesting.
Combining some spirit characters, some monsters, things like that. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to see how well I can sell this first book, or this first story. Right now I'm at about 6,000 words. I'm trying to keep it under 8,000, maybe 10,000, depending on the publication. But again, I don't want to give away the name, or I could give away the premise. I just don't want to give away the name because I don't want somebody to rip me off.
Yeah.
You fucking skeezy listeners, you. Actually, I don't think anybody's writing action adventure too much anymore. Like fantasy adventure. Not like the Conan stories anyway. But my story is very Conan-esque with the beginning. It starts off with a field of dead guys. And there's only one survivor of the whole battle. That's my character. Of course, he's beat up, but he's alive. Conan style. Because you have to have that ridiculous, this guy survived, but nobody else did.
Yeah.
And then where the kind of twist is on my story is, and I think I might have told you this off air before, I'm setting up kind of like their own religion. I'm not really going too heavy into it, but there is like a hell or an afterlife, and there's a ferryman. Much like, I think it's like Greek mythology, the ferryman that takes souls.
Yeah, and that's why like they always buried people with like coins.
Yeah.
So they had so they could
pay the fare. Well, in my story, it was a giant battle, and it was, it's like a northern country, so it's frozen, but they had a giant battle and a bunch of men died, but it was on like a holy site where they had the battle, and because of that, since so many people died at once, the ferryman can't take all their souls at once, so and the souls, because they were wandering so long in the same area, since he couldn't take them all, the corpses reanimate, and now you have an army of the dead, and who has to fight off that army of the dead? My character.
Your guy.
But I also have two separate stories that merge into one on the side. There's a king, and it's his army that was fighting another army, and he gets news that everybody died and stuff. And he has to find some kind of magical oracle person, and I don't want to give too much of this away, but his part of the story is he kind of might have to sacrifice his life to appease the gods, which will let the souls be able to go back to the other side, like, properly, because the gods were offended by the battle on the Holy Lands. So the one who started the battle would obviously have to sacrifice his life, and then there's a whole thing with that, and that gets into like the weird magical like elements that Conan has in those stories. So we get your fucking crazy palaces and stuff like that. But I'm very interested for you to read that story because I think you'll enjoy it, because it does read like the Conan stories. Maybe not as fast paced, because I really am still getting used to doing that. Because I have this story, because it's the introductory story to the character, it doesn't have as much immediate battle. The main fighting is going to be at the end. Yeah. So he's not cleaving everybody's head at the beginning and stuff. But after this story, it's going to be nonstop cleaving. Because that's my favorite thing. You said you were working on a new story.
I am.
You care to give away the premise or no?
I can kind of, I'll try to talk around it. I don't, because it's not,
It's hard to not give everything away.
Yeah.
And also, yours is probably not a reoccurring character like mine, but I don't want people to steal the name or anything of my character, because I think the name's kind of cool. And, as much as it sucks to say, there are people that will steal your ideas.
Oh, yeah.
But the general premise of that, it's probably already been done. Everything's been done.
Yeah. So, because I was actually texting you about this story yesterday, right? Was I yesterday?
Last night, yeah.
So, to anybody who might have listened to our previous episode about starting off your stories, strong sentence, or strong like opening paragraph, I was really thinking about that, and I was like, what could be like a cool thing to start a story? And I just thought of this guy waking up in the woods to like this blood curdling scream, like off in the distance.
Not his scream.
Somebody else's scream, like off in the distance. And like he wakes up and he doesn't know, like he doesn't remember how he got into the woods or what's going on. And
see, that's good because that opens the world up to why is he in the woods? Is he the cause of the scream? Is the scream maybe it was somebody he's with? Yeah. Like we were talking in the last episode about the first sentences. You want to leave it so it alludes to the story without giving it away.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, I was actually starting on that story today. Good about like 500 words into it. I think whenever I get home after this, I might still kind of try to put a couple more hundred into it. But that's kind of like the base premise of it. Again, I got a little bit more than that written down, but to kind of go a little bit farther into that, I won't want to give too much of that away to the listeners. I did want to talk to you about it, though, off air.
We'll get to that later. Speaking of first sentences, because I started this adventure story, like a month or so ago, I think I was talking, after we did the Conan story, the Conan stories, I think this has, let me see if I can bring it up, because I think you might like this first sentence. I think I started it pretty strong. And this was way before I even thought of the idea of that episode about the first sentences. So at least I was on the right foot with this. Very simple. The crisp night air kept the stench of death at bay.
Ooh.
So that it gives you, there's some death. But it's so cold out that it doesn't stink yet, which makes you think there's a lot of death.
When we were talking about that last week, I was having I realized I mentioned how I have trouble doing that, but then I really realized too, I think a part of it is because, and you probably realize this reading, most of my work, is that I have very kind of like short, punchy sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have very long, drawn out sentences.
You have like a Hemingway.
So to get like something that powerful, that hook within like that first sentence that most likely is going to be very small,
Mm-hmm.
That's not so maybe I just need to make a long, drawn-out first sentence, like first paragraph sentence, and then just go...
Stretch it out a little, Gil.
And then just go back to my normal...
Well, the story we published yesterday, which was Friday, April 3rd, that was the one story I told you I wrote real quick for the site. It's called The Bag. Not my most creative endeavor, but it was just kind of like a fun, quick... It was actually supposed to be flash fiction. It went a little bit longer, but... that first sentence, too, that's what I was telling you about. I think it kind of catches you. And I'll actually read the first two sentences, because like you were just saying about the short, punchy sentences, they're both short. There was something strange about the bag. I was halfway through my morning jog when I came upon it. So that gives you the setting of what bag, why did you, where are you, that you're running outside, so there's a bag, what's in the bag. I wanted to, and then it goes into slightly more detail, but you don't find out what's in the bag till the very end. And I wanted to keep that kind of like a creepy element, but it's not really a horror story or anything. If I had more time on that, I would have fleshed that out more and probably added actual whole nother half of that story. I am really enjoying the just kind of thinking how you can really get that good first opening sentence to punch up your work. And that's like in the adventure genre, that seems to be a lot easier because you can just talk about somebody being dead.
Yeah.
And I also want to start, I'm actually thinking maybe my next story, I want a rowdy bar scene.
Yeah.
Because that one story we read of the Conan where he's in the pub and he's just chopping heads, I really enjoyed that, but it was a little overwritten. Like, it was kind of hard to follow parts. I want a more simplistic version, and I want lots of cleaving. Oh, I love the cleaving so much.
I did come up with another idea for, like, a sci-fi kind of story today. And it could either be, like, something very long, like a novel, or like you were talking about with your story, with your
like an ongoing,
like series of sci-fi, like kind of stories.
Like, share the idea or no?
Yeah, no, I'll share. So I was reading a graphic novel today, the first volume of Money Shot. I was telling you about it before.
Yeah.
But so the basic premise is like, for that, is that...
Not to interrupt you, but when we do the episode about coming up with the great titles for your story, Money Shot we have to remember. So if you can't, like, write down a quick note, because I'm going to forget that. That's awesome.
So...
Makes you want to read it.
Yeah. So the quick synopsis of that book is that in the future... government's really looking down on science, and they're not having any funding for anything. So to raise money for their for their science stuff, that they make like this Pornhub kind of like sex channel where they go out into space and have sex with these alien creatures for money. So you have to pay to see it, and that money... I would watch
so much of that.
And then, and obviously while they're doing these things, they, loan different things going to these planets.
Right.
And, and obviously in that, adventures in variety ensue, you know what I mean? It can't be just as simple as that. But the opening of that, like, sparked this idea because, these aliens show up to Earth, and this is a very common idea, but they show up, they want to, induct Earth into the universal society, of all these planets.
Yeah, the Galactic Federation type of deal.
But then, they see how fucking shitty we are, and they're like, no, it's not worth the time. So... I want this character or these group of characters, that happened, and they were they grew up as science fiction fans and stuff. So to actually see them and to that they're real, aliens are real, and oh, this is great, and then to just them to be no, you're not worth it, and you just leave, and then so because I figured this is why it could be a good series, a serial, because it'd be what they have to do, or that person has to go through to get themselves out into outer space and to out into that thing, and then once they're there, how they interact with all these species and how people are oh, that's a filthy human.
Yeah.
Who let that in?
The aliens in space view us as some kind of fucking lower life form.
And I figure then too that, and I'm not normally one for my meanings and subtext, but that I think that would also be a good way on how people look at other races,
right?
Or sexes, and
it's kind of like that. Was it Will Smith? That Netflix movie. What was the name of that? Blue, or I forget the name of that. About the orcs.
Oh,
that was Will Smith, right?
Yeah,
because that was orcs also live among humans, and they had battles in the past, but now they're integrated into society. So you have the orcs, the one was a cop, but they still look at them like they're lower than. That was a race thing as well. I really like that idea.
Yeah, because
whatever humans were in space would constantly have to prove themselves. And it would be really shitty. And that is a really good allegory for race relations, in especially even modern America, let alone. Older America. How long would you, if you did a series, that might actually make a really good comic series.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I think that would be a better comic series than a short story series.
I think all my ideas would be better comic book stories, because we've talked about this before. That's just kind of how I view stories.
Look, sir, I've been telling you need to get on to reading some comic strips, or comic scripts, and kind of maybe steering yourself towards writing a few, to see how try your hand at that, and maybe read some Alan Moore ones, which are really complex. And I would say Jeff Lemire would be a good one, because I read some of his and they weren't so complex. They're more normal, and it still requires effort. And honestly, I think because I was writing some of those future stocks for. What was that, 4000 AD?
Yeah.
I was trying my hand at some of those. And, I mean, those are hard because they're, really short and have to have a twist ending. But just getting into that, it changes the whole way you write, because now you're no longer thinking in terms of, I have to show the reader. Yeah, because now you have to show your story through art.
Yeah, because you're not... there's so much more writing that goes into it other than, what the audience sees.
Yeah.
It's not
you have to write out a scene and you not just write out a scene, but how it's going to be painted by the art, like how the artist is going to interpret your vision and be able to show the audience what's happening, maybe without words.
Yeah.
Because a lot of panels don't even have words.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of the writing, like, you see, like, you see a page, and there might be a couple of word balloons on that page, and you'd be like, oh, man, well, that must have been easier for the writer.
Seems simple.
No, because you have to be, like, and especially depending on the artist, you might be like, hey, this is what I want. I trust you. Give me some thumbnails and we'll be good. Or sometimes you're like, okay, in this panel, I want them facing facing each other at this angle. The next panel, I want an overhead shot. And then, like, you know what I mean? And then you have to describe all that too.
Well, I'll just use some random examples off the top of my head of, like, levels of complexity of writing that kind of stuff. One, like you were talking about leaving it to the artist and you just give them like the description of people facing each other. Well, you could tell a lot through the art. For instance, you could show a shiny red apple. That's not much of writing. You just be like, oh, there's a shiny red apple. And then the artist draws a shiny red apple and maybe it's like close up and vague background. And then you could go into more detail. The next panel, slightly turned angle, and you see a worm sticking out of the apple. And then it's slightly turned again, and the whole apple's rotted out from the other side. And that's a whole, like, metaphor, maybe for your story, maybe for the characters in the story. You don't know. But that's, like, the complexity there isn't just so much saying, oh, I just want to draw an apple and then draw a rotted apple. You're telling them, hey, this is important to the story for this reason and why it needs to be this way. And you're no longer thinking in the form of prose or narration. You're thinking in the form of visual interpretation. So you're thinking, hey, the viewer's going to see this in this way, and they have to be able to connect these dots themselves without any words guiding them. That's actually tough, but once you get the hang of it, like I said, it's just like it's a different way of writing, like a different way of thinking about writing. And I was having a lot of fun with that, but it does take practice. Especially because people think, oh, well, that's a lot easier because you could just have the artist draw this stuff and you could just have a couple word balloons. Yeah, but try telling a whole story with using like 10, 20 words. Like, that's fucking tough. Having a whole scene that plays out and you have to write that scene without, like, maybe minimal dialogue at best.
Yeah, that's another thing. You don't want to have these crazy big amount of word balloons or text blocks and
that would ruin it.
To cover up all, hopefully the great art that you have, that you hopefully have for your book.
So I honestly want to do an episode about comic script writing as well. I just haven't been able to find anything that gave me the information that we can talk about properly. But I'll do some more research on that. Like I said, I was writing some of them and I thought they were quite enjoyable. My only problem with them is, again, I was doing future shocks, which are those are tough because the twist ending, and I forget what it was. It was like within 4 pages or something. To tell a whole story within 4 pages, comic format, and then have the twist ending is. And I was looking at Alan Moore's as examples, and he literally had pages of narration that the artist had to interpret.
I always feel bad for his artists.
Well, like, look at Watchmen, like the way he did the panels.
9-panel grid for most of that book.
Oh, fuck that.
That's why, like, I don't have a problem with the artist David Gibbons, because, like, a lot of time, like, for many of the movies or the shows, like, if he doesn't take, like, because Alan Moore never takes that money, he normally gives it to, to Gibbons, and it's like, good.
He deserves it.
Yeah, bro, that shit you put him through, like 40 years
That's
ago.
like a blood tie right there. Yeah. You owe him for life. At least 40 years.
Yeah.
Going back, because I'm so self-conceited. Going back
to your story.
Back to my adventure story. I wanted your opinion on something.
Okay.
Because like I said, I'm going to write multiple stories. Like the Conan stories. Which direction should I go with this? Should I do like Conan, where it's individual stories and each one reintroduces the character?
I was going to ask you about this, but I didn't know if you wanted to get to it on air or not.
Well, we got nothing else to do. So, individual stories like Conan, where it always reintroduces the character, or ongoing story, or not even necessarily ongoing story, but just assume the reader knows the character.
Well, then too, I was gonna go like with, are you gonna do them in chronological order, or are you gonna have them at
I'm definitely gonna keep that vague. I don't want to go through, because I don't want to create a universe that I have to pay attention to.
Especially considering how you don't know like, you might not always be able to get that same story sold to the same.
Well, that's the thing, especially in this market and even in the old market, it's hard to get a story because there isn't magazines that, as far as I know, there aren't magazines that really publish ongoing stories too often. I feel like I would have to get in with like one of the editors or like a publisher, get real tight with them before I could do that. And I'm not close with anybody like that.
Because that would suck if you come up with this cool character and you got to...
Have to ship, like, you shop it around all the time.
Or, like, you got to say you got it, a publisher to publish one of your stories, and then be like, and then you try to do another one someplace else, or even for, like, the website or something. And, like,
yeah.
And they're like, no, we have that character now, like, or whatever, you know what I mean?
That would suck, say, on the unlikely chance of Marvel or somebody bought the character, like the rights to the character, and then all of a sudden I can't write for it unless it's for that publisher. That would be tough. Another thing, too, though, like when we were reading the whole Conan collection, we both pointed out how Robert E. Howard overused the same descriptions. Like, every time, Conan had the black mane and the wolfish eyes.
The blazing blue eyes.
Blazing blue eyes, and he was very animalistic and all that shit. And it was like every story was like that. But again, it was because there were just individual stories. Yeah. One of my fears, and again, maybe this is being a little conceited, thinking my story's better than it is, but if it was to take off and then one day my story gets put into a collection, do I want those readers to go back and be like, oh, I like these stories, but every time he described the fucking character the same way, like, why? Because I actually have more respect for Robert E. Howard now because I was thinking, well, it's because, I don't even know if they were all published in the same magazine, probably multiple magazines.
You would think, and then, just with the way things was back then, you probably didn't have people who could buy the same magazine over and over again.
Yeah, you always had to reintroduce the character. Like, he was writing, like, whoever was reading didn't know the character at all. And that makes sense. I kind of want to go that same route. I think I would just use... kind of more base, like I wouldn't use the same description. Again, though, if I wrote like 15 of the stories with that character, there's only so many ways you can describe somebody without changing the way they look or their mannerisms or anything. I'll play around with that. I don't think I'm gonna do I don't think it's gonna be a series such as this is the first part and then this is the second. I'm not gonna do that. I am gonna have it skip around. I'm not. See, here's another problem, because we talked about the very first Conan story was King Conan when he was old.
Yeah.
And then after that, all the other stories, you knew he lived because he had a King Conan.
Yeah.
So my character in this story, I don't specify his age, but he is an adult. So I could tell stories when he's younger, when he's like a teen.
Yeah.
And because I allude to in the story that, he came from a warrior tribe and he was raised to be a certain way. So I could have a story set back then, but then... the suspense is killed with, he lives, at least to this point. But I don't have old man, character.
Stephen King did that with the Dark Tower series. You introduce Randall and stuff, and then you get, I think it's like the fourth book. Like the third book ends with this huge, cliffhanger. And the fourth book is a flashback to his childhood. And, what happened to, kind of kickstart this whole, thing that he's on, and then comes back, and it's just kind of that's awesome, we wanted to know that, but fuck you, Stephen King.
I wanted to know what happened with the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could I think the big problem was, he went old Conan first.
Yeah.
So as long as my character's not old to start with, then I don't have to really worry about killing the suspense.
And you also have, you're going into this with the foresight of, I'm gonna at least try to plan on doing multiple stories with this character. With Howard, he's probably this was my one Conan story.
Yeah, he didn't think it was gonna take off.
And it probably took off, and then probably after he wrote it, was then oh, I have this idea. Oh, I have this idea that he probably didn't have beforehand.
So everything, past that was young Conan, which, well... I think the way around that is if I keep my character at an unspecified adult age, and if I ever want to kill the character, which I think I definitely would at some point, a heroic death, of course, that would be a huge shock. If it became popular, that would be a huge shock to the audience. And pulling the J.D. Salinger, then again, if somebody gave me enough money, I clearly would sell the rights to the character. Yeah. But J.D. Salinger, he wouldn't sell the rights to, hold Catcher in the Rye for anything. So that's why there's no Catcher in the Rye movies, by the way. But if I didn't sell the rights to that character, nobody else could ever write it, at least until fucking public domain kicks in when I'm dead for 80 years.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about, like, the reader, like Marvel syndrome where, oh, you killed a character. Shocking. But then people are like, okay, this is the 5th time this character's been killed. It's not very shocking. I could kill the character and he's dead forever and I never have to write that character again.
You're going to say, well, that's too about, like, that's one of the good things about, like, writing that kind of story. You can have time be, like, a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Like, the way people just age and stuff. Maybe they live a little bit longer. Or, like, they...
Super Saiyan style.
Yeah, or, like, like, the way that they just... it's better, like, once they hit adulthood, it takes longer for them to, like, age or whatever. So, maybe whatever race he is.
Well, here's the simplistic way to do this. 1 year of a person's life is a long fucking time. A lot of events can happen. If you're in a warrior era, a barbarian era, you could be in a lot of battles in 1 year.
Oh, yeah.
So, give a guy the prime of 15 years of being in his physical prime. That's a lot of killing. It's a lot of cleaving.
Exciting times.
Exciting times.
But even then, too, though, like I was saying with that kind of universe, say if you did kill off your character, there could always be some kind of magic or so,
could bring him back.
Because, like, tell me this one would be cool. You kill him, he has some kind of fight in the underworld.
That would be fucking awesome. I like that already.
He comes back, or, like, he becomes, like, the ruler of a hell for a period of time.
Dude, I could fight the fucking demon gods. Oh, that would be great. He fights his way back, and then he's not alive, but he's, like, alive. It would be, like, not undead. He would just be, like, whatever form you take in fucking hell, he comes back, and he's just like, oh, I got cool powers now.
Yeah.
I really like that. I could do a lot with that, too. Also, I want to use, if this character ever gets popular, I'm going to have the most graphic sex scene in one of the stories. He's going to fucking destroy some poor lady or man. I'm not discriminating. And it's going to be glorious. I'm talking ass to mouth, dude. No, I went too far, didn't I? Damn it, this is supposed to be family. Did so good.
You never go.
We did so good. Up until that.
Oh, that's what I should have fucking asked fucking Dante at the convention instead of like my stupid like flying car question. So, have any of you guys ever actually gone to ask them out? Like,
that would have probably went over in that crowd. They would have loved it. I had lots of cheering. Here we go. Dinner time for the husky.
He was sleeping and instantly woke up and just gave.
How does he fucking know it's 6:02 on the dot?
Yeah.
Like
he knows, and he got off the bed. And he keeps farting.
Well, imagine if like there was some just like overlord in your house that fed you every day at a certain time. Every day you'd probably start to be like, hey, I'm kind of hungry. It's probably food time.
Food time. This is true. Well, do you have anything else to bring up? Because I guess we could wrap that up.
No.
I enjoy talking about the brainstorming this. We didn't really do much brainstorming, but that's fine. Perhaps another episode will be how to create an ongoing character.
Yeah. So
comic script, titles, ongoing character.
Even like serial storytelling, like we've kind of talked about that too. But
we've had that on the site, but we've never implemented. Like our serial stories have been a continuation of one single story.
Yeah.
We never had a character who has different adventures. Or even has one story, but he goes through different adventures.
I mean, we could even, if we wanted to, sandwich that in with like the story or like the comic scripting, because like those two
go
things,
hand in hand.
Those two things kind of play together.
I think we got some good episodes coming up.
Yep, as long as we're allowed to have them.
Yeah, that's a big if, because like I said, week to week, we don't know what the fuck's happening anymore. Folks, we'll keep trying to get these episodes to you. I know you're sitting at home bored, and the first thing you do is go to Drunken Pen Writing, drop a new episode. I need it. This would be a good time to actually start making more episodes, but my will has been bottomed out. If you folks want, because we actually do have some new work up finally. We got some, we're going to have lots of poetry. We got some short stories. I got one yesterday. You got one. If I can finish it tonight, we'll be coming out tomorrow.
Nice.
I don't know, I've been drinking, so I kind of don't write some. But even so, I got tomorrow morning. At the latest, it'll be next week. But we do got some new short stories up for you folks to enjoy, so go to drunkenpenwriting.com for that. You can check us out on the old Twitter at drunkpenwriting and Instagram and Facebook at drunkenpenwriting. We appreciate your feedback. We've gotten some some good emails lately. I'm completely spacing. I had like 2 submissions like this week for short stories. Completely forgot about them. I should probably get on that.
Yeah.
Because even though we're not open for submissions technically, because there's not really any kind of season that we're doing, we still take them if you got some. If you folks want to submit something that you think we'd enjoy, feel free. I mean, it's not like we're posting a lot of crazy stuff lately, so we can always use good short stories. Keep it under 5,000 words, please. There's not too many of us reading, and we are fighting coronavirus out there, so keep on writing, keep on reading, stay fly.